Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Hari Gaura Premanjana. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Which is the very means of conquest. One should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayana, unto Naranarayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee. All that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. Loving service unto the personality of Godhead, whose praise to transcendental songs is established as an irrevocable fact. Jai Gita Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. So today we go on. So today we go on with text 31 of Brahma's prayers for creative energy. Yes. Tatha atmani loke cha bhakti yukta samahitaha drastasi mam tatam brahman Mayi lokam stvamadmanaha Tatha atmani loke cha Bhakti yuktaha samahitaha Drastasi mam tatam brahman Mayi lokam stvamadmanaha Tatha atmani loke cha Bhakti yukta samahitaha Drastasi mam tatam brahman Mayi lokam stvamadmanaha. Prabhus? Bhakti yukta samahitaha Drastasi mam tatam brahman Mayi lokam samahitaha Tatha atmani loke cha Bhakti yukta samahitaha Drastasi mam tatam brahman Mayi lokam samahitaha. Mataji's.
Tatha atmani loke cha Bhakti yukta samahitaha दृष्टासि मां ततं ब्रह्मन् मयि लोकां स्वमात्मनः
तथा आत्मनि लोके च भक्तियुक्त समाहितः दृष्टासि मां ततं ब्रह्मन् मयि लोकां स्वमात्मनः
तथा आत्मनि लोके च भक्तियुक्त समाहितः द्रष्टासि मां ततं ब्रह्मन् मयि लोकां स्वमात्मनः
Please read the synonyms. Tataha, thereafter. Atmani, in yourself. Loke, in the universe. Cha, also. Bhakti yuktaha, being situated in devotional service. Samahitaha, being completely absorbed. Drashta asi, you shall see. Mam, me. Tatam, spread throughout. Brahman, O Brahma. Mayi, in me. Lokan, all the universe. Tvam, you. Atmanaha, the living entities. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. Please repeat the translation. O Brahma, when you are absorbed in devotional service, in the cause of your creative activities, you will see me in you and throughout the universe. And you will see that you yourself, the universe, and all the living entities are all in me. Please hear the purport. It is cited herein by the Lord that during his daytime, Brahma would see him as Lord Sri Krishna. He would appreciate how the Lord expanded himself into all the calves during his childhood at Vrindavan. He would know how Yashoda Mayi saw all the universes and planetary systems within the mouth of Krishna during his playful childhood pastimes. And he would also see that there are millions of Brahmas during the appearance of Lord Krishna in Brahma's daytime. But all these manifestations of the Lord appearing everywhere in his eternal transcendental forms cannot be understood by anyone but the pure devotees, who are always engaged in devotional service to the Lord and are fully absorbed in the Lord. The high qualifications of Brahma are also indicated herein. Jai Shri Prabhupada ki. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuttapada Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaure Tvishe Namaha Vancha Kalpatrubhyascha Kripaha Sindhubhya Evacha Patithanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Barhapidam natavarvapuhu karnayo karnikaram bibradvasaha kanakakapisham vaijayantim chamalam randran venur adaya sudaya purayan gopavrindai Vrindaranyam swapadaramanam pravishad gopaki gita kirtihi. This shloka is one of two shlokas that Shukadeva Goswami heard from his father Vyasadeva. And this shloka and the shloka in the third canto, Aho Bakiyam, these two shlokas melted the heart of Shukadeva Goswami, and from being an impersonalist, he became a devotee. So these are two very powerful verses, and this particular verse is very important for us because it describes the beautiful form of Krishna as he is, as Lord Sri Krishna. And in this shloka that we are speaking about in Bhagavatam today, it is very nicely stated how Brahma would give the boon to Krishna, how Krishna would give the boon to Brahma, that he would be able to see him even while creating in the form of Krishna. This is a very important point Srila Prabhupada brings up in this purport. And this form of Sri Krishna is very special. And nowhere is this form actually found except in Vrindavan Dham actually. In Vrindavan Dham, the beautiful form of Krishna is at its most appreciable by all the devotees of the Lord. That's why in this shloka, Barha Pidam, so nicely Shukadeva Goswami says that Krishna wears this peacock feather ornament and he wears it on his head. He wears these blue karnikar flowers, and these blue flowers, they are very beautiful, and he puts it on his ears. He puts it on his ears. Then Shukadeva Goswami says his yellow garment is as brilliant as gold. And then Shukadeva Goswami goes on to explain that he wears this beautiful garland which is only unique to Krishna. It is known as Vaijayanti. And when he wears this garland, Krishna exhibited this beautiful transcendental form in Vrindavan Dham. And he was also known as the greatest of dancers. So Krishna is known as the greatest of dancers. These are all the qualities of Krishna. And Shukadeva Goswami is remembering Krishna as he enters the forest of Vrindavan. Because the moment he entered the forest of Vrindavan, he beautified it with the marks of his footprint. Jayati te dikam janmana vrajaha. The gopis say that the land of Vraja has been blessed just by the lotus feet of Krishna touching the land. So in the same way, Krishna entered into the forest and he beautified all the Vrindavan forest just with his footprints. And when he played his flute, Bhagavatam tells us he filled up all the holes of the flute with the nectar of his lips, because every part of the flute was touched by Krishna. And the flute is such an instrument where your lips must touch the instrument, you see. It's a wind instrument, right? So the lips of Krishna, it actually enhanced the power of the flute. And when he did so, all the cowherd boys, Gita Kirtihi, they all sang his glories. So this is the pastime of Krishna as he is always in Vrindavan. And this pastime was given, Krishna gave a glimpse of this beautiful pastime to Brahmaji actually. You will find in this shloka that Krishna continues to reply to Brahma's heartfelt prayers. You realize before this last week, Brahmaji was asked by Krishna to do three things. He was told by Krishna that first of all, you situate yourself in penance. Penance means tapas. So it's very important for us when we begin devotional service. A necessary component of devotional service is austerity, right? Many of you have been here for the whole morning. So that is austerity. That's why you're here still. And it's not easy. But this austerity purifies our consciousness. Whether we like it or not, it is actually purifying us. Then Brahma was told by Krishna that on the basis of tapasya, you please meditate on my form. This is very important, to meditate. Meditate must always be on Krishna. Meditation cannot be on anything else or anyone else. We cannot meditate on anyone else because meditation is exclusively for Krishna. And this meditation must be done not whimsically, Krishna told Brahma. It must be done on the principles of knowledge. In other words, we must act on whatever that we are hearing and whatever that we are studying from Srila Prabhupada's books. That is how we advance in Krishna consciousness. That is how we become fixed. That is how we become situated. If we did this, then Brahma says, by these actions, that means these three things, by these actions, you'll be able to understand everything from within your heart. So, Tesham Satata Yuktanam Bhajatam Priti Purvakam. This devotional service of Priti Purvakam, these three components are implicit in devotional service. We cannot think that devotional service doesn't have these items. There will always be transcendental knowledge. There must always be austerity. And there must always be meditation. When we have these three in devotional service, then Brahma was promised by Krishna that he will be situated in the right place. Now in the next shloka, which is today's shloka, Brahma is very nicely told by Krishna that when you are absorbed in devotional service, in other words, one of the most important things is to become absorbed in devotional service. This absorption is actually the fruition of our meditation, our quest and practice of transcendental knowledge, and our austerity. Until we do these three things in devotional service, it's very hard for us to become samahitaha. Samahitaha means to become absorbed. That is how we become absorbed. Actually, Brahma's prayers before this, right, they were very powerful. But I remember telling you last week, I think, that his last four prayers are actually very important. His last four prayers are like chatushlokas for his other prayers in chapter 9. They're very, very important. And in this particular verse of 31, actually, Krishna is addressing one particular prayer of Brahma. And he's actually praying for this particular point. What is that shloka? I think it is here. Yeah, it's text 23. Esha prapanna varado ramayatma satya yad yad karishyati grahita gunavataraha tasmin swavikramamidam srijatopi chetu yunjita karma shamalam chayata vijayam. This last line, yunjita karma shamalam chayata vijayam. This is a very important line because Brahmaji was saying in this prayer that Krishna, you are the benefactor of all the surrendered souls. And your activities are always enacted through your internal potency. This will become important in this shloka because Brahma, Prabhupada writes in the purport, will be privy to the powerful internal potency of Krishna in his pastimes. And we will see it shortly. So he's praying to Krishna that Krishna, your activities are always enacted by your internal potency. And that internal potency is Rama, or goddess of fortune. Now this part is very important. Brahma has a specific request in the form of a prayer. And he says, I pray only to engage in his service in the creation of the material world. This should be our prayer also. That when we come to devotional service, our engagement must be in his service, not for our sense gratification. Otherwise, so often bhakti becomes another focal point for our sense gratification. It becomes mixed devotional service. I do it because it gratifies something I want. I cannot get it outside, but I can get it here. Maybe no one recognizes me outside, but here when I become devotee, everyone is praising me. Everyone is appreciating me. Maybe I can't get something material outside, but somehow when I come to Gauranga Center, I can get it. That is very dangerous. Because actually that is not devotional service. That is a very subtle way to sense gratify your own heart. That's why Brahma is making this prayer. I pray only to engage in his service in the creation of material world. Otherwise, Brahma was given such power. Imagine if you have the power to create. It's very easy to become filled up with false prestige, isn't it? Even a small thing we create, we can become very proud of it. The most dangerous team here is the decoration team. Because decoration team is creating every time, They're creating something nice always. It is very easy for creating team or decorating team to say, I want appreciation. Come on, tell me it's very nice, or tell me this is good, tell me that is that. It's easy, it's very easy. So you can see that in devotional service, anything that is given to us by Krishna's potency, if we are not careful, if we don't pray like Brahma, we can easily be materially affected. I pray that I may not be materially affected by my work. That's the meaning of it. When we perform something, when we do a nice program, we should pray to Krishna that our engagement is in His service. It is not my service for name and fame. It is not that I finish and I feel very happy with myself. Oh, I gave a nice class. All the nice shlokas were there. That means I am already materially affected by my works. And therefore his prayer is, let me give up the false prestige of being the creator. Very important. Very important. This false prestige is one of the greatest impediments in devotional service. And that is why this prayer of Brahma in text 23, Krishna is actually addressing here. He's actually addressing here. Why? Because he's giving Brahma the formula in this shloka today, in text 31. He's giving Brahma the formula how not to be affected and how to avoid false prestige. How? By being samahitaha. That is the clue here. That's the solution. The more absorbed we are in devotional service to Krishna, the less absorbed we are in our requests for prestige, in our demands for appreciation, in our demands for name, fame. It is very dangerous if we are not careful about that. So Brahma's prayer in text 23, Krishna is addressing in text 31. Actually, in the next few verses, all four prayers that he addresses are all addressed by Krishna's answers. They are all addressed by Krishna's answers. And the trick is to find which are the answers to which prayers. That is a very important thing, you know. So I remembered when my Guru Maharaj was recovering from a stroke many years ago, he spent 3 days just making us study the last 4 shlokas and then looking at these answers of Krishna and telling us to match where the answers were to which prayer there was to Krishna. And so when you study Bhagavatam that way, you realize that every part of Bhagavatam is not accidental. It's all related to each other. But the question is to discover it, you see. And that can only happen when we are samahitaha. The more absorbed we are in the study of Bhagavatam, the more powerful it will become. So Brahma's, the answer to the prayer of Brahma was, become absorbed in devotional service. If you become absorbed in devotional service in the cause of your creative potency, then Krishna guarantees Brahma that when he becomes that way, on the strength of penance, on the strength of meditation, and on the strength of transcendental knowledge, that absorption in devotional service, it will allow us by his mercy, by his favor. Remember the word favor last week? Favor means protection, isn't it? Ashritaya, ashritaha. It is protection. Then by his protection and by his mercy, then, as this shloka tells us, Prabhupada writes in the purport, Brahma would be able to take darshan of Krishna even while he was performing these activities. Like if we go to office, for example, our prayer should be somehow while we are working, we must take darshan of Krishna. It's very important. How to take darshan of Krishna is really only by his mercy. The darshan of Krishna does not always come only by sight. In fact, in Bhagavatam, the darshan of Krishna comes by remembrance. And this remembrance of Krishna comes by repeating. And this repetition of Krishna comes by hearing. And this hearing of Krishna will come by chanting. So actually when we want to take darshan of Krishna, hearing is essential. Because after we hear, we can repeat. After we repeat, then we can remember. That was the same formula that Kunti Mata gave us, isn't it? Shrunavanti gayanti, grananti abhishnashaha, smaranti nandanti, tavehitam janaha, ta eva pashyanti, achirena tavakam, bhava pravaho paramam padambujam. In this shloka, Very nicely Prabhupada translates. Only 3 things Kunti Mata is saying, right? You hear, you repeat, right? And you remember. These are the 3 main things. You hear, you repeat, and you remember. That is what Brahmaji is doing here. He is hearing what Krishna has said now, right? And now after this, right, he is repeating. He will repeat. And as he performs his creation, he will remember Krishna. This is all by Krishna's mercy actually. This is how we become absorbed in devotional service. Kunti Mata was not speaking these prayers in a very good time of her life. She was speaking these prayers in very awkward situations in her life. And yet she was absorbed. And yet she was absorbed. So absorption will not happen in the good times of our life. Don't wait for everything to settle down and then we become samahitaha. It will never happen. In fact, in the course of material creation, Brahma knew that he will be caught by false prestige. That's why he is praying that way. We often pray because we realize something is going to happen to us, right? That's why we pray. So Brahma realized, I am going to be affected by this material prestige, false prestige. So let me not be deviated from you. Let me not think I'm greater than you. This is his prayer. And this point is really given by Brahma, because this absorption of devotional service, Brahma will realize later. In the 10th canto, 14th chapter, I think it's the 4th verse, it's one of the very important verses that Prabhupada chants. Shreya shritim bhakti mudasyate vibho klishyanti ye kevala bodha labdhaye tesham saukleshava eva shishyate nanyad yatastula tu savagatinam. So Prabhupada quotes this verse very often, and Brahmaji is the one who prayed in this chapter of the prayers, of Brahma's famous prayers. Brahma has many prayers in Bhagavatam. 3rd canto, 9th chapter, very important prayers. 2nd canto, 9th chapter, he also is praying to Krishna. And 10th canto, 14th chapter, his prayers are some of the most powerful and amazing prayers in Bhagavatam. And of all those prayers, this prayer is very important. Brahmaji says, devotional service to you, that is the best path for self-realization. This is the realization of Brahma. After so long of meditation, this was his realization. So he says, if someone gives up the path, this path, and if he engages in what we call cultivation of speculative knowledge, what will happen then? If you don't do devotional service, in other words, every other process, Prabhus and Matajis, is very troublesome. That is why it is known as kleshala. Klesha means always troublesome. And therefore, this without devotional service, everything we do will become troublesome. This is very important. If you are now being a devotee, but suddenly you find you're doing so many things, but all your things are becoming troublesome, go back to your devotional service. Something is wrong there. Something is wrong in the execution of our devotional service. That's why the kleshahas are becoming very difficult. So Brahmaji is saying, without the devotional service, those who speculate, sometimes we may look like devotees, but actually we are big time mental speculators. We are not devotees sometimes, We take up the process, but within the process we become Mayavadis. Within the process we become speculators. We sit down and we think, why this, why that, why this, why that. It is not sincere inquiry. Actually, it is speculation. Sincere inquiry means, I ask the question, it's found in Bhagavatam, I keep quiet. And I accept it and act on it. That is the result of sincere inquiry. But speculation means you will have the answer in front of you, but still I will ignore it. Keep asking, keep asking, keep asking. Just for the sake of asking. Nothing else is important. You see the point? So therefore, Brahmaji says, this speculation is a very troublesome process. And we will never reach our desired result. We will never reach it. And Brahma says, he gives such a nice example. Sometimes what happens is, people get this husk of wheat. And they think, that if you get the husk and you beat it, right, grain will come out. But actually, nothing can come out because there's nothing inside. There's only a husk. So you can beat it till the cows come home, but no grain will come out. So in the same way, Brahma says, if you simply speculate and you don't accept, you don't absorb, then what will happen? It will only be trouble for you. your only gain is actually trouble. You don't gain anything, you only gain trouble. This is very important point, very important point. So that's why Brahma is telling us that when this happens, please, when I come to this point where I want to speculate, where I have the false prestige that I think I know everything, then please let me pray that I become absorbed in your devotional service. Absorption is very nice, that word absorption. You know what is the most important thing in the world that can absorb things? It is sponge, isn't it? Right? Sponge is very nice. If you pour water on rock, nothing happens because the rock retains very little water. That's why when water is cutting through rock, it takes millions of years before the rock is cut off. It will happen, but it takes a long time. But if you put water into sponge, right, the beauty of water in sponge is that sponge has the quality to absorb. And another word for absorption is it has the quality to retain. Retain. So when we are absorbed in devotional service, now substitute the word absorb with the word retain. We must retain our devotional service. This is very important. Retention is very important. Sometimes we touch it and it goes. We touch it and it goes. Very often it's not we touch and it goes. I'm wrong. We touch and then we go. It remains there for us actually. Just like Krishna is there. Jagannath is here. He never leaves Gauranga center actually. He's here. But we touch him and we go. Isn't it? So how much do we retain Jagannath? That means how much we absorbed. That is the meaning of absorption. It's clear now, right? If you see it that way, you'll never forget the word absorption. That is what is meant by absorption. And that's why Prabhupada in his purport says that when Brahmaji becomes absorbed, in other words, he was born on the lotus flower, he was given the duty of creating, and now he has touched Krishna in the form of his prayer. And now he wants to retain Krishna, because as he continues his activities, it will be very easy for him to forget Krishna amidst the great material activities. And that is why in this beautiful purport that Prabhupada gives, Prabhupada says so nicely here that it is cited herein that the Lord during his daytime, Brahma would see him as Lord Krishna. And that is what Krishna says in the translation. Krishna tells to Brahma, if you become absorbed in the cause of your devotional service, if you are absorbed in devotional service, in the cause of your creative activities. Cause means what? When we are going through a course, it's many days, right? Many days. In other words, while we are doing something. It's not before, it's not after, it's while. Actually, the challenge to remember Krishna is not before we start work. The challenge to remember Krishna is not when we end work. What's the real challenge? When we are in the cause of our activities. See how well Prabhupada translates. As Govardhan Prabhu said yesterday, right? There is no language Prabhupada uses in his books which is whimsical, which is capricious. It is always for a purpose. That's why Krishna was telling Brahma, actually before you are starting, like now before he's starting, very easy to remember me. After also very easy. You know why after is easy? Because after Brahma has created the world, right, his day is over. What will happen after that? It will go into night. In night, right, annihilation begins. And very often in annihilation, everything is absorbed into Krishna. Even if it's partial, it's still absorbed. And therefore, at that point of time, actually there is no challenge. Brahma will definitely be absorbed in remembering Krishna because he's already absorbed. It's the cause of the activity. During that time, that's the challenge. So for us in Gauranga Center to remember Krishna, all right. At the end of the program, still can remember. During Prasadam, we forget a little bit, right? Because we're looking at everything else. After Prasadam, put on our slippers, it's all over. It's very difficult. When in the cause of our material activity, very difficult to remember Krishna. So he's saying here that if you're absorbed, so the key is to be absorbed. As long as we have tapasya, as long as we have meditation, as long as we are always in touch with Srimad Bhagavatam and studying it, then our absorption will be there. Then we will retain. Then Brahma says, then Krishna says, you will see me, that you yourself, the universe and the living entities, you will see me in you and throughout the universe, and you will see that you yourself, the universe and the living entities, they are all in me. And that's why Prabhupada said, by Krishna's mercy, because of Brahma's heartfelt prayers, Brahma during his lifetime, in other words, during his day when he's away, Krishna gave him the wonderful pastimes for him to observe. So even though he was busy in the material world, Krishna gave Brahma the chance to observe his activities in the spiritual world. Why? Because Krishna came to Golok Vrindavan. And there Brahma was allowed, while he was doing his creative activities, he was allowed to witness the beautiful activities of Krishna. And Prabhupada mentions 2 or 3 activities here. And there's a reason why these activities are being mentioned. The first activity, or not in order, but if you think of it in order in Krishna book, is the activity of the vision of the universal form, right? It is stated here that Brahma would be able to know how Yashoda Mayi saw all the universes and planetary systems within the mouth of Krishna during his playful childhood pastimes. Amazing, isn't it? So Brahma saw this actually. He saw one day, he saw that Balaram and the cowherd boys, right, came to Mother Yashoda and complained to Mother Yashoda that Krishna is eating clay. How many of you have eaten clay? There we are. I notice it's very interesting. More of the ladies are eating clay than the men actually. Right? Yeah. So anyway, I don't know what to make of it, but doesn't matter. Anyway, Krishna, Balaram and the boys came to Krishna, came to Mother Yashoda and complained, Krishna is eating clay. So then Mother Yashoda approached Krishna and said, are you eating clay? And Krishna said, they're all lying. I'm not eating clay. I'm not eating clay. Krishna was very good in this way. He would have butter in his hands. He would have butter on the mouth. And Mother Yashoda would say, are you eating butter? And he would say, no, I'm not. It was obvious. But he would say no. And Mother Yashoda would just smile because what do you say? There's butter on him. He's still saying no. And when he told this to all the gopis, when he stole butter, the gopis would catch him. Krishna, did you steal butter? And it was there on him. He would tell to all the gopis, no, mothers, I did not steal. And they would be angry, but they would think how wonderful Krishna is. And they would say, never mind, let him go. Let him go. So that way, he turned to his mother and he said, no, I'm not eating any clay. He said, actually, they are lying. Balaram actually took the side of the boys because when I was playing with them, I won a game. And Balaram was defeated. So Balaram became upset and he went to the boys. And together now they are plotting against me. And now they are saying that actually I am the one eating clay. So then he said, Mother, if you don't believe me, I'll open my mouth now. And you can see whether there's clay or not. Yashoda thought, yeah, this is a good idea. Open your mouth. Let me see. And when Krishna opened his mouth, there was no clay. But there was something more than clay. Because Bhagavatam tells us when he opened his mouth, Yashoda Mata saw within Krishna's mouth the entire universe. Prabhupada writes in Krishna book, Mother Yashoda saw the complete opulence of creation. What a nice phrase. The complete opulence of creation. And he saw all the different directions in Mother Yashoda's mouth. Mother Yashoda saw this in Krishna's mouth. When Mother Yashoda looked and looked and looked, she saw all the maintaining factors of this universe. She saw all the islands. She saw all the planets. She saw the oceans. She saw the great universal planets floating in the air. She saw air. She saw all the 5 elements. Fire, air, ether, water. She saw the moon. She saw blazing suns. Bhagavatam tells us that she saw the 3 material modes of nature. She saw the eternal time. She saw all the living entities. She saw how living entities were created. She saw material nature. She saw spiritual nature. And she saw activity and she saw consciousness. We cannot understand, how do you see activity? How do you see consciousness? That's why Mother Yashoda is Mother Yashoda. We cannot see these things, right? And so not only did she see that, But within her mouth, as she saw all this amazing universe, she saw herself in the spiritual world, in Vrindavan Dham, in a house where she was asking the same question. She saw herself putting Krishna on her lap and feeding him. And upon seeing this, Bhagavatam tells us, Mother Yashoda became struck with awe and reverence. Suddenly, Vatsalya Ras left her. And now the mood of awe and reverence, Dasya Ras, it actually touched Mother Yashoda. That's the beauty of Vrindavan. No? All these rasas are there, but sometimes they interplay, they interplay. So Mother Yashoda thus began feeling a great sense of awe towards Krishna. And she began saying that now either I must be dreaming or I must be seeing some play of the illusory energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Where does Mother Yashoda talk like that? Normally every day she never talks about illusory energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But it happened when she looked into the mouth of Krishna. She then said, it may be that some cosmic mystic power has been attained by my child. I think Krishna has got some cosmic mystic power. He has become so powerful that he is now beyond expression, beyond my consciousness. I am thinking that Nanda Maharaj is my husband, that Krishna is my son. I am thinking that all the properties of Nanda Maharaj are also my property, and therefore everything belongs to me. I am thinking that the Gopas and the Gopis are all my subjects. I am thinking that Vrindavan Dham is my property. But all these misconceptions are due to my illusory energy. And this illusory energy is coming from the Supreme Lord. Therefore, let me put my hands in prayer and let me pray to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and ask him to protect me. All this was spoken in the mood of Dasya Ras, in the mood of a servant, in the mood of awe and reverence. This is one of the few times that Mother Yashoda shows this. Now this happened why? Because she told Krishna, open your mouth, I want to see clay. Actually Krishna volunteered, right? And she looked inside. And when she saw the universe, she was overtaken by the power and the awesome nature. And for that moment, she believed that Krishna is not her son. She believed that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now Krishna became worried. Because Krishna was thinking, Yashoda Mata is now too much in awe and reverence of me. And this does not give me pleasure. It doesn't give me pleasure. So when Krishna saw that Mother Yashoda was becoming highly philosophical, Prabhupada uses these two words. He says in Krishna book, when Krishna saw that Mother Yashoda was becoming highly philosophical, then Prabhupada writes, that Krishna then expanded his Yogamaya potency. Right? Is Yogamaya here today? No, huh? Yeah. Yogamaya is not here today. So, but she's still expanding her potency anyway. It doesn't matter if she's in anywhere. So Yogamaya potency, Krishna expanded it to again bewilder Yashoda Mata. So that at that moment, right, she once again came to the conclusion that actually Krishna is a child. And she dismissed in her heart and her mind, whatever I saw there must be my hallucination, You notice we also do that sometimes in life. We see something we cannot accept. What do? Cannot be. Just ignore it. Isn't it? So whatever that is in the spiritual world, it happens in the material world. It happens in the material world. But in the material world, it's a perverted reflection. What we are doing is not with spiritual motive. Very often it's because we cannot accept something. But Mother Yashoda's non-acceptance of Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead suited Krishna very well, because he wanted to enjoy this pastime with his mother. And so Mother Yashoda quickly became caught by Yogamaya. And what did she do? She stopped looking into the mouth of Krishna. She said, okay, close your mouth, no clay. No clay. The boys must have lied. And Krishna was very happy because now he was one up over Balram. He was one up over the cowherd boys. But he had eaten clay actually, right? That is the truth. But there was no clay in his mouth. So then what did she do? She said, forget about the Supreme Personality of Godhead thing. Krishna is my child. I will put him on my lap. And then she just fed him so nicely and so happily. So this is the mood of Mother Yashoda. And you know why it is like that? Because towards the end of that story, that wonderful pastime, right, Prabhupada brings up a very important point in Krishna book. He says that Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda were given so much of ability to love Krishna because a long time ago, Nanda Maharaj was the Vasu known as Drona. And Mother Yashoda was his wife actually. Dara, I think, right? Dara, Drona and Dara. So Krishna book tells us that they were created by who? Brahma. Brahma created them. And he told them that go forth and create progeny. Create progeny. And they only had one request. Their request was, we pray that somehow or another, after we have done these activities, give us an opportunity to at least have Krishna be our child. That is our only prayer. We don't want anything else. We just want the austerity of serving Krishna as our child. What a nice point. The austerity of serving Krishna. Because serving Krishna is not easy. Actually, it requires great austerity. That's why Krishna told Brahma, situate yourself in penance. It is not a walk in the park to serve Krishna. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so because of that, right, Brahma was so kind that Brahma said, so be it. I pray that at some point of time, I pray to Krishna that somehow he will fulfill the sincerity of Dara and Drona, these two. And so these two personalities, by Krishna's mercy, because he wanted to fulfill Brahma's prayer, they then came to the world as Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Mata. This is given by Prabhupada and our Acharyas in Krishna book. So actually Prabhupada writes there, this is the greatness of Brahma. And you see the last line of today's purport? In the last line of today's purport, Prabhupada says the same thing. He says, the high qualifications of Brahma are also indicated herein. This is how great a quality Brahma had. Because he was so absorbed in devotional service, whatever statement that he made, remember last week, Na bharati me angam risho upalakshate, that shloka? In that shloka it is stated that whatever statements I make will never be proven false. This is not a show of false prestige. It is the humble acceptance that this is Krishna's mercy. This is the greatness of Brahma. And because of that, right, Brahma's prayer, Krishna fulfilled. So Yashoda Mata and Nanda Maharaj were given a chance to serve Krishna on whose mercy? On whose prayer? Brahma's prayer. Actually, if you think very carefully about it, Brahma had a role in this. And that is why Brahma is really an exalted personality. Imagine, he may be in the material world, but his prayer for the two Vasus ultimately put them eternally in contact with Krishna. Amazing. That's amazing. This is the greatness of Brahma actually. And that's why the other pastime is also very important in the purport. One day, the boys, Krishna had just killed Aghasur. You all know Aghasur, right? What kind of demon is he? He's the snake demon, isn't it? Right? And if you remember, Krishna had killed Aghasur. But towards the end of the pastime, Shukadeva Goswami says, even though Aghasur was killed, the news of Aghasur's death only was communicated to the residents of Vrindavan when? It was communicated much later. Actually 1 year later, isn't it? Why was it 1 year later? Because actually Parikshit Maharaj is very sharp. Because Parikshit Maharaj picks that up and says, why 1 year later? What is the problem? So it shows how carefully he was listening. I would never have caught it. 1 year, 2 years, so what? But he caught it. Why 1 year later? Why communication was so slow? And the reason for it now, Shukadeva Goswami will tell Parikshit Maharaj. He says that there's a reason why there was 1 year. Because just after Aghasur was killed, Krishna brought the boys, right, the Gopas, after a terrible ordeal. After you're traumatized by such demons, the best thing to do is sit down and have lunch. So what happened? Krishna said, take out your lunch boxes. Let us sit down in the sandy banks of Yamuna and let us have nice prasadam. So they all brought their tiffin carriers. But if you read Krishna book, it is stated that they took out their food and they put it on leaves, they put it on some nice flowers, and then they had their lunch. They put Krishna in the center like a hall of a lotus flower, and they were all seated around him. And as they were all seated, Each one of them, right, did not look at each other. They all looked at Krishna. See how nice? Like yesterday, when we sang Jai Anilo Premadhana, we all turned, and who became our center? Our center became Prabhupada actually, right? It's just that Prabhupada is flushed against the wall. Otherwise, he's our center, right? It is true that Jagannath is here, but actually Jagannath is our center. That's why we call Gauranga center. Center of what? Center. Jagannath is our center, right? So actually, the boys were all seated around and they were joking, they were laughing. Bhagavatam gives such an elaborate description of Krishna. They say that Krishna had tucked his flute in the left side of his girdle, On the right side of his girdle, he had put his bugle, right? And his horn. And his stick, bugle and his stick. So the stick and bugle he put on the right side, his flute he put on the left side. He took his left hand, he had a rice preparation. And that rice preparation was mixed with a bit of yogurt, right? It was mixed with a bit of vegetable salad. So in those days also Krishna was having some salad. So they were all having very nice prasad actually. Jai Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Mai Ki. And so in doing that, right, he was just sitting and having a very nice time with the boys. And as he was having such a nice time, all the devatas were looking. They were all looking. And as they were all looking, right, they found so amazingly that actually that they were completely absorbed in Krishna to the point that the calves whom they were supposed to take care of, they were just moving around. And after a while, the calves actually went into the darker part of the forest. And for a while now, the boys, after having prasadam, they became anxious. And they were thinking, Krishna, where are the calves? So Krishna said, don't worry, I'll find the calves. I'll find the calves. So Krishna said, you sit down. Krishna did not even eat that morsel of food which he had on his hand still, right? With his left hand still holding that prasad, Krishna walked into the forest just to find the calves. Now when he went into the forest to find the calves had disappeared. And when Krishna came out to see the gopas had disappeared also. So the gopas were gone and the calves were gone. And Krishna was thinking now, who has done this? But immediately asking the question, he knew the answer. Because Krishna book says, Krishna immediately came to know that actually Brahmaji was the person who had taken the calves and he had also stolen the boys. Brahmaji had taken them away and put them in what we call, by his power of energy, he put them into a very deep sleep. Very deep sleep. Brahmaji did that because he and the devatas were watching Krishna sitting down and having wonderful prasad with the boys. This same Krishna was so young when he killed Aghasur. And Brahma was thinking, who is this boy? How can he be so powerful? And so Brahma wanted to test him. This is the same Brahma who prayed, let me not be diverted from the sense of my false prestige as creator. 10th canto, forgotten already. You see, that's the challenge, you see. That's why he prayed in 3rd canto. Because in 10th canto, he will forget. And so he was in difficulty. He thought, let me test who this Krishna is. So he took the boys away. He took the calves away. But Krishna said, it's all right. I know Brahma wants to know who I am. Maybe it's time for me to give a little bit of a refresher course to understand who I really am. So what happened? Krishna expanded himself to become the calves and to become the boys. Now, he did not expand himself the way the mystic yogis expand. The mystic yogis expand through their material yogic energy. So when Kardama Muni, for example, expanded himself to another Kardama Muni, right? That Kardama Muni still retains all the vicissitudes of human existence. Death, birth, old age, disease. That expansion will also have that. But Krishna book tells us that the expansions of Krishna in the form of the boys and the calves are non-different from him. By Tattva, they are Vishnu Murtis. Very important. They are Vishnu Murtis. Each one of them were actually his Vishnu forms in the spiritual sky. Each one of them. The example given by Prabhupada is just like fire is fire, but heat and light are qualities of fire, and therefore they are expansions of fire. In the same way, the boys and the calves were expansions of Krishna. They were not material expansions. They were each actually Krishna. For us, we cannot understand that. There is no way we can understand that. Because Krishna is Krishna. We can't even expand beyond ourselves, right? So Krishna can expand that way. So what happened then? The moment the calves and the boys were present, Krishna was thinking, before he expanded himself, he just asked himself one important question. Now when I go back to Vrindavan Dham in the evening, the Gopas, their mother and father will say, where are the boys? How can I tell them that, they are not here? Then the cows will come to me and say, where are my children? I can't tell the cows, I'm sorry, Brahmaji has kidnapped them. Because actually this is what it is. Brahma not only stole them, he kidnapped them. It's a crime, in Singapore you'll be put to jail a long time and you'll get a few strokes of cane. But Brahmaji did that actually, he kidnapped them. So how to explain to the residents of Vrindavan? Difficult, right? So Krishna thought, never mind. This is what I will do now. Since the residents of Vrindavan all this time, their only prayer every day has been that somehow or another, the mothers are always praying that Yashoda Mata can give milk to Krishna. My prayer is, I wish I could feed Krishna with my milk. They were feeding their children, but they couldn't feed Krishna naturally because his mother was there. So their prayer every time was, please let me feed Krishna. And then the prayers of all the men, their husbands was, how nice if Krishna came and stayed with us. How nice if Krishna was here in the morning, we would smell the top of his head, after his bath, and then we would affectionately take care of him. So that's what they were thinking every day. And then the cows, they also were thinking, how nice, just like Mother Yashoda is feeding, giving milk to Krishna. I have so much milk, the mothers were saying, the cows. How nice if instead of just my calves, I could feed Krishna. How nice that would be. So these were desires that were all directed towards Krishna. All directed towards Krishna. So these desires are not considered mundane. They are not considered material. Any desire that you have to serve Krishna is always spiritual. And this is the secret. Those who desire to serve Krishna, automatically they become absorbed. This is the connection between Samahitaha and Prabhupada's purport. Please don't forget that. The more you desire to serve Krishna, the more automatically, without separate endeavor, yadrichaya, without separate endeavor, in the ordinary course of your activity, you will become absorbed. But if you have a desire to please yourself ahead of Krishna, then absorption in Krishna consciousness is a challenge. And that's why very often we are in difficulty. Because if we really examine and introspect, it's very often the second rather than the first. We perform a service, but the desire is for some name, some fame, some appreciation, something we will get. And therefore we are not absorbed in Krishna. Krishna somehow is forgotten. It's like you're driving towards Cuff Road, suddenly you look at, oh, Kampong Road, maybe I'll just turn there. And then you forget Cuff Road, like that. Right? That's what happens here, you see. So you'll never arrive in Cuff Road. You'll just go down and then you come out, Jalan Besar, and you'll go away. That's what will happen. So this is the point that is understood. So the cow's prayer and the residents of Vrindavan prayer, their prayer kept them in absorption. It kept them in absorption. So all their life, right, their prayer was their penance and their penance was their prayer. You see the point? Because it is great penance, every day to pray to serve Krishna, but not be able to serve him. This is the mood of separation that they felt. So even in Vrindavan Dham, not only were the gopis in separation from Krishna, even the cows were in separation from Krishna. Even the residents of Vrindavan every day were in separation of Krishna. Because they were desiring to serve Krishna, but they could never. But in this pastime, Krishna allowed that. Because he thought, all glories to Brahma. Yes, he may be a kidnapper, but now I'm going to do two things. One, I'm going to cut his false pride, his false prestige. And now, let me allow the residents to feed me, because I will go home today as the boy. I will go home today as the calves. So Krishna expanded himself, and that evening, all the boys went back to their parents. And the parents were more affectionate to the boys than they were ever with their own children. And they did not even know why. Why am I feeling so much love for the boys today? You know, it's like every day you see your son and you love him very much. Why today on Sunday I love him more? Right? Why? Why? Normally he's rascal number one. But why today I'm feeling so much for him? Right? So they were thinking, why? And then the cows, they were giving more milk. They were giving so much more milk than before. And the cows also were thinking, why today production of milk is so high? What is the thing there? What is the reason? They were bewildered, you see, but they were so happy. And this is how Krishna book tells us. Krishna fulfilled the desires of the residents of Vrindavan. He fulfilled the desires of the cows. And in fact, in one moment at the height of this Leela, right, the cows were on the top of Govardhan Hill. And the men, were down. And the calves were down. And suddenly the cows, they actually saw the calves. And these calves are not the calves. They are actually Krishna, right? 1 year still going on, right? And so what happened was they started going down. Suddenly they forgot the orders of the men, be still. They started running down the hill, Govardhan Hill, because they had so much love for their calves. They were thinking to themselves, I've never run so much for my children. Why am I running so much to see my babies? And they ran down. And Bhagavatam says, as they ran down, because of so much love for Krishna, their udders were so full that the milk was spilling on the ground of Govardhan Hill even as they were going down. Govardhan, of course, became more jubilant, right? Govardhan was thinking, my God, I'm also enjoying this pastime because they are going down, milk is coming, and I'm becoming jubilant. And the men first were angry. Why are the calves going? So they ran down also. But as they ran down, they saw their boys. And they also became mad after them, just like the cows were mad after the calves. And by the time they reached down, the cows just embraced the calves in whatever way they can embrace. And they gave milk to them. And the men embraced their boys and smelled the top of their heads and hugged them and embraced them. But they had no clue why they felt all this. And Balaramji was looking at all this and thinking, something is wrong here. Everyday residents of Vrindavan are very enthusiastic, but they're very enthusiastic about Krishna. Now they are not so enthusiastic about Krishna. Now they are very enthusiastic about their children and their calves. Something is not right here. Balaram was thinking, something is there. It must be my brother's powerful energy taking place. And of course, Krishna admitted to Balaram that actually this is what happened. This nonsense Brahma, thought that he could actually catch me, but now I have caught him. So after one day, in a moments of calculation, right? Just moments of calculation, Brahmaji decided, okay, let me come back. He thought, I won't take too long. I'll just come back for a while. Actually, for Brahma, a moment, right, is just a moment for him. But you all know for Brahma, his life is what? 1,000 times the total of our 4 yugas. Easy. Don't worry about the trillion years and this and that. You can get confused. Life of Brahma is very simple. It's 1,000 times the total amount of all the 4 yugas. So all the 4 yugas is 4,320,000 years. Okay? Yuga years. Times 1,000. That is Brahma's 12 hours. Not 24 hours, 12 hours. It's just 12 hours, right? And then you do the double thing and it becomes 24 hours. So Brahma came within his day. He didn't come in the night because at night he's absorbed by Krishna already. Cannot do kidnapping. He's gone. He's sleeping. So he has to do it during daytime. These are daytime activities. So Brahma came back during the daytime activity and to his shock, what did he see? He saw that Vrindavan was going on as per normal. How is that possible? He looked at all the calves. He looked at all the boys. And he thought, this is not possible. This is not possible. How can it be? How can it be? Then he looked at the calves and the boys again. And now he saw something different by Krishna's mercy. He saw each boy as a Vishnu Murti form. He saw each calf as a Vishnu Murti form. You know that famous picture where Krishna is seated and then all the Vishnu Murti forms are around him. That's Brahma Vimohana Leela, right? That's the end of the Leela. And when Brahma saw that, then he realized, what have I done? Did I really think that this boy is just an ordinary boy? And he says so nicely, my Lord, just see my uncivilized impudence. That's the words that is used. Just see my uncivilized impudence. To test your power, I tried to extend my illusory potency to cover you. Can you beat that? He admits, I tried to extend my illusory potency to cover you. But you are the unlimited, primeval super soul. And you are the master of all the masters of illusion. What am I compared to you? What am I compared to you? I am just a small spark in the presence of great fire. And then Brahmaji says very nicely, Ukshepanam garbhagatasya padayo kim kalpate maturadoksa jagase kim asti nasti vyapadesha bhushitam tavasti kukshe kiyad api anantaha. In one of his prayers in the 10th canto, 14th chapter, he says, Krishna, you are adokshaja. Adokshaja means one who is beyond, all of this. And he says, you are anantaha, you are unlimited. Then he says something very sweet. He says, does a mother take offense when the child in her womb is kicking with his legs? Mothers, only you can answer that question. We can't, right? When do you get angry with the child when the child within your womb is kicking you? Can I have an answer? No, right? I hope. Did anyone get very angry? Because if you get angry and the child is kicking you inside, right, what will you do? You'll only hit your own abdomen. What can you do? You can't get to the child, you just hit your own abdomen. So Brahma is asking such a nice question, that I'm inside you. I'm like a child, an unborn child, so dull, I'm like unborn. And it's true. Krishna is, in one sense, Brahma is known as Aja, isn't it? He's unborn. So he says like an unborn child in the womb of the mother who kicks and cannot understand what he's doing or what she's doing, right? Please don't take offense to what I have done. Please don't take offense. So you see the beauty of this beautiful prayer of Brahma, right? In his first prayer in the earlier text was, please let me not be caught up by the false prestige. A pure devotee always recognizes that he's not perfect. That is his purity. Srila Prabhupada never said he's perfect, but that never detracted from his purity. There is a difference between material perfection and spiritual purity. Very often in this material world, we are looking for perfection in the spiritual world. That's why we want the decoration to be perfect. That's why this must be perfect. It's good. You want it the best for Krishna. But you must recognize your own limitations. That limitation is the basis of your humility. Brahma realized that it's very easy for me to think I'm very expert, but all the potency is coming from Krishna. Arjuna realized after Mahabharata war, this same bow that was so powerful, the arrows that were so powerful, the chariot that was powerful, the horses that were powerful, none of them have potency anymore. Because they were all coming from Krishna, not me. So a devotee always has that balance. We want to do something to please Krishna, but we know that the impetus to pleasing him is to understand that we cannot be falsely prestigious. This is very important. The moment we are caught by false prestige, then by Krishna's mercy, because of Brahma's sincere prayers, in the 10th canto, Krishna allowed him to take darshan of this beautiful vision of the universal form. Krishna allowed him, right, to take darshan of him after he killed Aghasur and to be caught up by his own pride, but to be checked also. Krishna was not angry with Brahma at the end of the day, but he wanted to teach Brahma that even though you may be creator, you are secondary creator. I am the primary creator. So these checkings by Krishna is also his mercy. Please remember that. When Krishna checks us, it is also his mercy. Nothing wrong being checked by Krishna. Don't feel discouraged when suddenly you get slaps in devotional service. It is checking by Krishna. What is wrong? Sometimes it comes to devotees. When devotees check us, we should not fire them. We should not act as if you don't tell me, I know everything. Then that false prestige has consumed us. What is wrong with hearing a devotee say, Mataji, this is not the way to do it? Why are you so caught up with, oh, look at the way she said it to me, or why did she say this to me? Why can't you hear the message and forget the speaker? The message is Krishna, isn't it? But we are very caught up. I don't like the way this devotee spoke to me. I don't like the way that devotee spoke to me. It's because of our pride. It's because of our pride. That doesn't mean the devotee on the other end continues to speak that way. Right? That devotee has a duty to speak according to Vaishnava etiquette with sweet, palatable words. But when we are hearing it, we should not blame the devotee. Devotee has a role, we have a role. Right? If we are being told by someone, we take the message. Why we worry about how it comes, what wrapping is there? We take the message. We take the medicine. We don't care about the outside part. We take the medicine. So Brahmaji accepted the medicine through his beautiful prayers. And that's why in the vision of the universal form, and this is to end today, in the vision of the universal form, Brahma also saw himself and many other Brahmas. Millions and millions of Brahmas he saw. And that must have definitely checked his false prestige. My God, I thought I was the only Brahma. Remember one time, Prabhupada has given the story, Brahma wanted to see Krishna, but Krishna put him in the waiting room and said, wait here. So while he was waiting, so many Brahmas came in. And Brahma thought, how come? Huh? And I only have 4 heads. This Brahma had 4 heads. In our universe, Brahma has 4 heads. But in other universes, because there's so much more to create, and so many directions, Brahma saw Brahmas with many, many heads. And that's when he realized, I thought I was the only special Brahma. But I think there are many, many, many more Brahmas. So we should not think I am the only great devotee. Nobody is like me, you know. Someone may be like me, but ultimately he's not like me. This kind of thing doesn't help us, you see. And therefore, this entire Leela, these Leelas are the mercy of Krishna to allow Brahma to grow in his devotional service. And that is why Brahma grew in his devotional service. Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai Srila Gurudev ki. Nitai Gaura Premanande. Are there any questions? I have not even finished what I said. Yes, Mataji.
I was listening to interview with Prabhuji.
Maharaj.
You know, he was adding this 5,000-year-old literature to this whole Leela, where he just says that during this period, the gopis were married to Krishna actually. And the actual husbands of the gopis, they were just the shadows who could never touch the gopis. So they're all part and parcel of Krishna.
Yeah. Amazing, huh? For a year, Krishna changed the entire Vrindavan. Everyone's relationship with Krishna for that 1 year, everybody's desire to be with Krishna became completely enhanced. And we have to thank Lord Brahma for that. Because he stole the calves and the calves and the boys. We really have to thank Brahma. And that is why when the boys and the calves were returned by Brahma, back, right? That 1 year for the boys was like a moment, right? For the gopis, it was like a moment. Because suddenly the boys found, hey, I'm still sitting with Krishna. And then the boys turned to Krishna, and said, Krishna, why are we still sitting here? We should continue with our lunch actually. Because everything was stopped, isn't it? They were taken away, actually. And then Krishna finished lunch with them, and then they passed by Agasur, and then Krishna then told them, see now how Agasur looks, only his skin is left. And then they went home. And when they went home at that point of time, this set of boys and calves, they related the pastime to the Vrindavan residents. So for that 1 year, Agasur's pastime was put on hold. There was a pause. So that the rest of the whole Vrindavan, as Mataji pointed out, the gopis, the gopas, all of them, they were all engaged in a completely different time with Krishna. Thank you for sharing that, Mataji. Any other points? Yes, Navagowda Prabhu.
Prabhu, the question is about Brahmaji identifying Krishna as the Supreme Lord. So when the pastime ends, when Brahmaji is seeing each and every gopa as the Vishnu Murti form, and then he identifies that, this is Krishna, and Krishna is going, Vishnu Supreme Lord as Vishnu rather as Krishna. So I want to understand that is this form of the original source of the Godhead, Supreme Personality of Godhead as Krishna, is it so hidden from Brahma that he could not have?
It's not hidden, Prabhu, but it is confidential. It is confidential. The form of Krishna as the boy from Vrindavan, cowherd boy from Vrindavan, is a very special form actually. Because we are living in material world, we see that form as, through movies and through mundane eyes, we take the form for granted. But in our scriptures, it is very clear that this is the topmost, highest form. Even the Devas like Brahma and Shiva may not always be able to glimpse this form. Very often in their course of material activities, they are more likely to come across Vishnu than they are able to come across Krishna. And that's why very often in Krishna book, you find that whenever there is a moment of formality, right, between the Devas and Krishna, very often, right, some prayers are very often addressed to Krishna as Vishnu, like you saw here also. And then as the prayers continue, as Brahma's prayers continue in the 10th canto, 14th chapter, you will see that all his prayers become focused on Krishna as the cowherd boy of Vrindavan. Because it is a very confidential realization that Krishna is the cowherd boy of Vrindavan. Is that helpful, Prabhu? So we should not take for granted this beautiful form of Krishna. Barha apidam. We cannot take for granted. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Now, Gaurav Prabhu?
So in that way, bro, we are more fortunate in a way that we directly...
We are very fortunate because of Srila Prabhupada. From day one, from Janmadi Asya in Bhagavatam, Prabhupada has established Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not Vishnu. He has taken so much pains to do that. And in doing so, he has just defeated the idea of impersonalism. That is why we are very fortunate, Prabhu. In all the three worlds, right, we are very, very, very fortunate. Is that helpful? And we are fortunate at this time, at this age, because Srila Prabhupada is with us. Gorkanti, Prabhu? Thank you. There's a mic? Okay. Can we? Yeah.
You are quoting the verse 23 of the same chapter, where Brahmaji prays that I pray that I may not be materially affected by my work, but thus I may be able to give up the first prestige of being creator.
Yes.
And then when we refer to the verse where Lord Krishna or Vishnu is responding to Brahma. When we look at the translation itself, just not looking at the purport, but looking at the translation and the person itself. O Brahma, when you are absorbed in devotional service, in the course of your creative activities, you will see me in you and throughout the universe, and you will see that you yourself, the universe, and the living entities are all in me.
Yes.
So, Prabhu, when we look at this particular translation itself, actually, sorry, please forgive me for my expression, but it looks very impersonal. It has an impersonal kind of a tinge over here, that it's everything in me, and then it's like that.
Actually, it's not. Because we are always hearing impersonalists say that, Prabhu. That's why we feel it's impersonal. The impersonalists generally will say, you are in me and I'm in you. But actually, throughout Bhagavatam, this is a very personal concept. If two lovers say, you are in me and I'm in you, is it impersonal? Suddenly it's different. If you turn to your son or your daughter and you say, you are part of me and I'm part of you, does it sound impersonal? It's an expression of love. Do you say this, I hope, to your children? You don't, huh? Okay, fine. That's why you're looking at me like, how is it possible? Prabhu, in material world, hundreds of romance novels are written that way, Prabhu. I am in you, you are in me. All the time this phrase is being used actually. Because actually it's an expression of love. because we are hearing it from impersonalism, we think, oh, it is a very void concept. There's nothing void in it. What we are saying is, we are so close that I am in you, I'm in your heart, right? Therefore, all of you is within me, and you are in my heart. In the 9th canto, 4th chapter, between 57th verse to 63 verse, the same point is given by Krishna to Durvasa Muni, that my great devotees, they are in me and I am in them. I cannot live without them and they cannot live without me. Maybe he should have added that last 2 points, then you won't feel so impersonal. Maybe at the end of it he should have said, I cannot live without you, Brahma, and you cannot live without me. Then you'll feel, this is nice, this is like a love story, you know. But that's what he's saying. That's what he's saying, you know. So if you look at Aham Bhakta Paradino, Prabhu, it's 9 4, what, 57, 58, 59? Sadhavo? Yeah. Is it 68? Just keep going down from there, you will see it. Let me just see this shloka first. Hold on, it's too fast. I'm getting headache. Prabhu, this is okay, I'm not going to see it. Very good. Yeah. So anyway, the main point, this is the main point, Prabhu. Huh? Yeah, sadhavo hridayamayam, sadhunam hridayam tvam, mat anya tena jananti naham tevyo manakapi. See the translation. The pure devotee is always within the core of my heart, and I'm always in the heart of the pure devotee. My devotees do not know anything else but me, and I do not know anyone else but them. It's just a variation, Prabhu. That's all it is. All universes are in me, right? Everything comes from Krishna, but Krishna pervades all universes too. The impersonalist translators will say that he pervades the universes as the impersonal Brahman. But the impersonalist can only stop there. But for the devotee looks deeper. Krishna is in everything. He is Paramatma, and he is in everything because he is the source of all life. But he is also in the heart of all living entities as Paramatma. And for those like Brahma who are in a relationship with him, see the context, Prabhu. The context is Brahma is a devotee of Krishna. Why would Krishna want to speak impersonalism to Brahma? If he has prayed so many prayers affectionately and in love and devotion to Krishna, then it follows logically in Shastric logic that whatever Krishna is going to reply to Brahma will not be on an impersonalist level. He will also reply to him from his Bhagavan feature. He will not speak to him from an impersonalist point of view. So that's why it's important to understand the context in which Krishna is saying this. Is that helpful, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much. That's really, Prabhu. But in the 23rd verse, he also says that I should not get the pride of being the creator.
Yes.
And over here, Krishna actually, in this verse, he actually refutes that particular point. He says that when you are creating, it is as if I am creating.
That's the humility of Krishna. Prabhupada did that with his disciples. He empowered them, right? But then in their presence, he was also very humble. When Prabhupada attended the first GBC meeting and everybody was supposed to vote, all the members put up their hands to vote, and Prabhupada put up his hand to vote also. And they said, Prabhupada, why are you voting? You are the creator of the GBC, you don't have to vote. Prabhupada said, no, I'm just a member. So God is like that. Krishna is so kind. Sometimes you empower your children and they become like they are very big. You tell them, no, you are running the show today. You do it. Sometimes you have children's program, right? Matajis, you do Gopal's garden. The children take over, isn't it? It's not that they are now the creators of the universe, but you make them, you empower them. So Krishna is like that. Because he has no false prestige, it does not make any difference to him if he gives so much potency to someone. That is his greatness. Is that okay, Prabhu? Mataji.
This point, when you mentioned that by the time Brahma came back, after that one moment, right? So he could already perceive that Lord Krishna he is Lord, he is not a small boy.
Yeah.
So he could see everything is in place and so when he started praying, he sees the other Brahmas with more than 4 heads. Is that only at that point he came to know that, or was he still under partial illusion? Because by the time he saw everything is set and Lord is Lord himself, then that memory should have been there in place that there are other Brahmas as well. And how to
Memory is short, Mataji. That's why in 10th canto he has to be reminded. Many times Brahma is reminded. Forget Brahma, how many times Indra had to be reminded? Right? So we are all, one of the great failings of the material body and material creation is unfortunately shortness of memory. And because of false prestige, right, very quickly we can forget these things. So what happened to Brahma is a reflection of what will happen to us. But he's so much more greater than us actually, you see.
So he would have known earlier, he would have forgotten, and then he could remember again.
Yes, and he may forget again in the course of creation. That's why his prayer is there. Because he's aware that the moment we are touched by material nature, we will always, the tendency to forget is very strong in this material world. That's why we need to be absorbed in devotional service.
Sure.
Mataji? I think we should wind down soon. Sorry, I'm taking time. Yes, Mataji, yes.
Thank you, Prabhu. How to feel Krishna's protection during difficult times and not getting distracted from our goal?
One important thing is in difficult times you should take sadhu sangha. Association of devotees will help us to remain absorbed in Krishna consciousness. In difficult times we should call devotees. They will pray for us. They will be with us. They will remind us to remember Krishna. Of course, at that point you should not reject their instructions. That's why devotees need to share their difficulties. We cannot be islands, you see. If you're an island, it's very hard. On our own, to take care of the powerful stage of material energy is very difficult. But in the presence of devotees, it is possible. Many Prabhupada's disciples who stayed in ashrams during that time, right, when they were all together, they all said that when we were in difficulty, we approached Prabhupada, but Prabhupada also told us to take association of our God brothers and sisters, because they were all disciples of Prabhupada. So we should do that here. Take the association of all the devotees, all like-minded devotees, devotees whom we are close to. In difficult moments, when you look to them, when you take guidance from your spiritual master, when you take guidance from Bhagavatam, then it becomes very helpful. So Diksha, Siksha means all the devotees. That will really help us. And you should increase the quality of your devotional service when things are bad. That is the time to increase it. But that's the time we normally give up.
Practically during that time, only like we get distracted.
Yeah. So that is the time when we must actually be alert that we have to increase our devotional service. Right? That's why when devotees are in difficulty, tattenu kampam sushamikshamano, bunjana evatma kritam vipakam. We endure the difficulties but increase the devotional service. Endure and increase. Endure and increase. Is that all right, Mataji? Thank you. Thank you very much for all your time and all your effort to come for Bhagavatam. Dinwasa Prabhu, we'll end the program. Anything else? Do we have? Yeah, no, it's okay. Let them have prasadam now, because then we may not be able to do it on time. Thank you very much for coming together. Continue with all your Damodar programs, and Krishna willing, see all of you again. Hare Krishna. Jai Shla Prabhupada ki. Jai Shla Gurudev ki. Ananta Godi Vaishnavinda ki. Nitai Gaura Premanande.